Just hours before missiles struck Tehran, diplomacy appeared to be working. In Geneva, indirect negotiations between Iran and the US, mediated by Oman, had produced what negotiators described as a breakthrough. Iran had agreed not to stockpile enriched uranium, which is a central Western demand. According to Omani minister, Tehran had committed to blending existing enriched uranium to low levels and converting it into irreversible nuclear fuel. Iran had also shown willingness to grant the International Atomic Energy Agency full inspection access to verify compliance. For the first time in months, officials suggested a negotiated settlement was within reach. And then came the strikes. Within hours of the talks concluding, the US and Israel launched joint military attacks on Iran, with explosions reported across central and northern Tehran. Israeli officials described the operation as necessary to eliminate security threats, and a US official confirmed coordination between the two allies. Now, the timing has raised an unavoidable question. Were negotiations genuinely aimed at de-escalation, or were they just buying time? The answer may lie in the gap between diplomacy and strategic doctrine. Because for US negotiators, limiting enrichment and expanding inspection has historically been viewed as sufficient to delay or prevent nuclear weapon development. Agreements are designed to manage risk through monitoring and verification. But Israel's position has been fundamentally different. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly warned that Israel would act regardless of negotiations if Tehran retained nuclear infrastructure. And reports prior to the strike suggested that Israel was already planning contingency. What now stands out is that preparations continued even as negotiations advanced. And the strikes followed weeks of visible military buildup in the region, and that parallel track had fueled growing speculation within the region that diplomacy and military planning were never mutually exclusive. One interpretation of that situation was that the talks were meant to extract concessions while preserving leverage, but another, increasingly voiced across regional commentary, was more skeptical, that negotiations may have reduced international resistance while operational timelines moved forward. If true, diplomacy functioned less as a pathway to peace and more as a strategic cover. Neither Washington nor Tel Aviv has framed the strikes in those terms. Israeli Defense Minister described them as necessary to remove immediate threats, and US officials linked the operation to long-standing concerns over Iran's nuclear program. The sequence of events complicates that justification because the attacks did not follow a negotiation failure, it followed apparent progress. The immediate consequence is the collapse of diplomatic momentum because Iran now faces domestic pressure to respond militarily while regional states brace for escalation. Airspace have been closed, emergency alerts and defensive mobilization across Middle East signal fears that confrontation could spread beyond Iran and Israel. But the long-term impact may be diplomatic rather than military, because if concessions made during negotiations do not prevent attack, future incentives for compromise weaken. And the states observing this episode may conclude that limiting capabilities offers little protection if the adversaries ultimately favor force. And that calculation risks making future nuclear diplomacy far harder, not only with Iran but globally.